Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to discuss what I've learned, the experience I've learned in virtual training foundation. Is a virtual training foundation is a foundation that is into training people on cybersecurity, and I've learned a lot since I've started this training for the past 8 weeks. Each week, we normally learn new things. Every week, new things are being learned. This training, the exposure and trainings that I've gotten for the past few weeks cannot be overemphasized. The training at the Virtual Training Foundation are the latest 21st century tools for cybersecurity professionals. What I learned are number one, endpoint security, effective communication, cloud computing, conflict management, network security, web application security, containers fundamentals. I also learned about virtualization. I learned about Scrum. Then one thing that I also learned is how to make presentation on YouTube. How to make presentation on YouTube videos. These are the things that you know I learned in this training for the past 8 weeks that I've been going through this training. We have learned a lot, you know, in this training. Now, let me take it one by one. The first one is endpoint security. When we talk about endpoint security, security of endpoints is also known as end user devices like desktops, laptops, mobile phones, is referred to as endpoint security. Endpoints provide malicious actors with entry point into an enterprise network and acts as points of access. These points are entry points to an enterprise network and act as point of access. These points are entry. These points of entry are shielded from risky activity or malicious attack by endpoint security software. Now, when we talk about endpoints are actual devices that connect to a computer network and exchange data with it. Mobile devices, desktop computers, virtual machines, embedded devices, and servers are all endpoints. How do we secure all these endpoints? We can also endpoints also include cameras, lightning, refrigerators, security systems, smart speakers, thermostats, among others. Then Internet of Things devices. All these are um, endpoint devices. Now, in this virtual foundation training, virtual training foundation, we learned how to secure all these endpoints. These are the things that I learned. Now, another thing that I learned is effective communication. Now, effective communication, there is more to effective communication than simply exchanging information. Understanding the motives and feelings behind the information is the key, as well as having the option to plainly pass on a message. You want to likewise tune in such that acquires the full significance of what's being said and causes the other individual to feel appreciated and comprehended. It seems like natural communication. When we talk about effective communication, we're talking about how to communicate naturally, how communication naturally can be effective. However, it happens far too frequently that we attempt to communicate with others. When we say one thing and the other person hears something different, there are misunderstandings, arguments, and frustration. Your relationships at home, at school, at work can all suffer as a result of this. So, to communicate more clearly and effectively, to communicate more clearly and effectively, many of us must acquire important skills. Learning these skills can help you to communicate better with your spouse, kids, boss, co-workers, or anyone else you are trying to communicate with. It can also help you work better as a team, solve problems, and improve your social and emotional skills. Now, I want to talk about cloud computing. That's another thing that I learned. IT infrastructure is transformed into a utility by cloud computing. It lets you use computing resources without installing and maintaining them on premises by plugging into infrastructure via the internet. The technology that makes the cloud work is referred to as cloud computing. Servers, operating system software, networking, and other abstracted infrastructure can be pooled and divided without regard to physical hardware. Hardware boundaries are all examples of the kind of virtualized IT infrastructure. A single hardware server, for instance, can be broken into multiple virtual servers. And that's what we're talking about cloud computing. Cloud computing is all about people having access to their data anytime, anywhere, under any condition. They can use their data. That's the beauty attached to cloud computing. Now, I want to talk about conflict management. It's another thing that we were taught in this virtual training foundation. Any business can have disagreements. To keep employee turnover low, productivity high, and customer satisfaction high, it is essential to have people in the workplace who are skilled at conflict resolution. The set of strategies for identifying and resolving conflict in the workplace is known as conflict management. Conflict management aims to identify and minimize the negative effect of conflict rather than completely eliminate it, because conflict is a normal part of any workplace. Conflict management is used to resolve disputes in an equitable and effective manner. By doing so, you can prevent colleagues from communicating poorly, lower workplace tension to boost productivity, and maintain employee morale. Now, another thing that we were taught, that I learned, is about network security. Now, when we talk about network security, it refers to a wide range of technologies, devices, and procedures. In its simplest form, it is a set of rules and configuration that use both software and hardware technologies to safeguard the integrity, confidentiality, and accessibility of computer networks and data. Data is very vital to any organization. To guard against the ever increasing array of cyber threats in our world that exists in the wild today, every organization, regardless of size, industry, or infrastructure, needs some sort of network security solutions in place. Today's network architecture is complicated and has to deal with a constantly shifting threat environment and attackers who are always looking for and taking advantage of vulnerabilities. These flaws are found to be in wide range of things like devices, data, applications, user, and locations. As a result, numerous network security management applications and tools are currently in use that target individual vulnerabilities, exploits, regulatory non-compliance. These safeguards must be in place because even a few minutes of downtime can cause a widespread of disruption and significant harm to an organization's bottom line and reputation. Another thing that I learned was web application security. How do you secure your application on the web? Security of web application is an essential part of any web-based business. Web properties are vulnerable to attack from a variety of locations, scales, level of complexity due to the global nature of the internet. The security of websites, web application, and web services like API is the focus of web application security. The term web apps refers to computer programs developed using the client-server model. They make use of web browsers to make it easier for end users to carry out tasks online without any problems. A web app is any component of a website that provides users with a service or task. Webmail, e-commerce websites, online calculators, online bankings are all examples of common web applications. Browsers that support code languages like HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and others are used to develop and build web applications. ASP.NET, ASP, PHP, and GSP are a few of the most widely used application servers. A web app cannot function without the following three components. Number one, a database to store the necessary information. Number two, an application server to complete the task. And the last but not the least, a web server to handle the client's requests. Now, when we talk about container fundamentals, an application's code, runtime, system tools, system library dependencies are all wrapped in a container. Images of containers are used to build containers. Your system processes are all containers. A container abstracts the user space to provide operating system level virtualization in contrast to virtual machine, which provides hardware virtualization. When we talk about virtual machine use a hypervisor to run on top of host machine. RAM and CPU are two resources that the host machine normally provides to virtual machines. Now, but when we talk about containers are different from virtual machine. A virtual machine look like container, but containers are different. Containers, for instance, have a private network interface and an IP address, permit custom firewall rules, mount file system, and can execute commands as roots, which a virtual machine cannot do. Containers provide each container with its own isolated user space, making it possible for multiple containers to run on a single host machine. Containers and other containers share kernel of the host system. It is evident that containers share the entire operating system level architecture. The beans and the leaves are the only components that are entirely new. Because of this, containers are lightweight. The last but not the least I want to discuss is about Scrum. I'll talk about Scrum. When we talk about Scrum, the product development and other knowledge work are managed using the process framework known as Scrum. Scrum is empirical in that it gives teams a way to come up with an hypothesis about how they think. They come up with a hypothesis about how they think something works, test it, think about what they learned, and make the necessary changes, specifically when the framework is utilized correctly. The way Scrum is set up makes it possible for teams to use practices from other frameworks when it makes sense for the team's solution. These are the things that I learned in this uh, 8 weeks training. So very um, engaging. I learned a lot of things. Thank you for viewing me and have a blessed day. Cheers.